CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Calvin Alexander.
Welcome back here to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glen Alexander, joining you on this lovely Wednesday evening with fantasy football guru Colton Davidson. Colton,
Yeah, what's up? What's up, Calvin? I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about the NFL the last 2 weeks and what's been going on. I'm excited.
Yeah. Hey, always glad to have you on. Back on again. Back at it again with another show. Not back at it again with the white vans, but Vine is a long time ago now, so people probably don't even know that reference.
I'm not sure that I know that reference.
I know you do, but I'm showing I'm showing my age here with a couple of references, or just showing my niche interests with a couple of my references. I think that's I'm not. It's not an age thing. It's just a niche references with a couple of my references. Niche interests. Anyways, that being said, here, Colton, I'm gonna toss it to you. What do we want to talk about first? I'd rather not talk about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
Yeah, anything together,
because I'm not sure I have much more to add to that whole deal. Shout out. Lovers be lovers. Have fun. But which team do we want to talk about first? Broncos or the Bears?
Ooh, let's talk about the Bears. I have some stuff about the Bears.
Okay, because that is the toilet bowl of the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
That they play each other this weekend, in case anyone doesn't know. That has been covered quite exclusively on all media networks. So Bears, go for it.
Yeah, so the Bears last week, just to kind of begin things, the quarterback called out that the coaching staff was making him think too much, that it was all their fault. Then everybody goes like, oh, well, we kind of looked at some more of the context of the situation. It was like, no, I think I'm just thinking too much, but still not a great look. The facility was broken into, $100,000 worth of equipment was stolen. Then the defensive coordinator resigned halfway through the week due to health reasons, but there's been other reasons floating around out there that I'm not sure that anybody wants to report on quite yet. No one has anything. The GM called an emergency meeting or an emergency press conference to say everything's fine, nobody's panicking, which means everybody's panicking, nothing's fine. Then they go and they get slaughtered by the Chiefs. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift is there in the stands to watch it all go down. And it is kind of clear. I have written down in my week 2 notes, are the Bears secretly tanking? And I think that answer is absolutely yes, that they're tanking. And I think neither team has any interest in winning this game on Saturday or Sunday.
When you said secretly, I don't think it's, I think it could be a secret to them. I think they could be hiding it from themselves. Everyone else knows it's no secret.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I mean that in the funniest way possible. The Bears, I want to ask you this. Which team in the NFL right now, you tomorrow have to take them as the team you're going to root for the rest of your life, for the next 50 years plus? Mm-hmm. Let's say you live to be 200, but you have to root for the rest of your life. Which team are you going? There is absolutely no way I would ever choose that team.
I mean, it's probably the Bears are definitely top 5 because of how bad they're run and how they just have had no history. They have a ton of history, but not since 1985. They haven't been that great. The Bears are up there. I hate to say it, but probably not the Chargers because they're just straight up cursed.
Thanks, Colton. Shut
up. Jacksonville, because there's always rumors that they're going to move to London at some point. It's like I don't want to have to deal with rooting for a team in a completely different continent.
Well, you don't want to have to wait. Let's face it here. Let's be honest. You don't have to wake up at 9:30 on a Sunday to watch your team.
Exactly.
We're on Central Time. Imagine Pacific Time. You don't want to wake up at 7:30. Oh, good Lord.
I know. But that's who's coming to mind at the moment of teams I would not want to be forced to root for. Dallas Cowboys. I just don't want any part of that fandom either.
Seems odd. Of all the ones Dallas Cowboys made it, I would throw a couple of other teams in here, just in all seriousness. Jacksonville is one that I think is a great one there. Detroit, I just don't know what we're really banking off of. I do agree. Like the Bears in 85 won the Super Bowl, but then you go, wait, 1985 was 38 years ago.
I know.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I literally made a joke about my own age being 30 this year, just as we started the podcast. But I do want to say, like, I do think about, okay, wait, so 1985, what was going on? And it's like, I have no idea. I was born in 93.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so how long has it been since the Bears have been relevant? Quite a while. And you would figure that of all major league cities, something that you and I follow real closely is the NBA. Shout out to Damian Lillard getting traded to the Bucks today. But we talk about like small markets, big markets, how easy would it be to attract free agents to your city? Well, Chicago, like, I don't think the Bulls will ever be horrible for like 10 years. Like they'll always like be like up and like relevant. Seems like the franchise would always have money, the stadium, the city would always attract free agents, etc. Right? So in the NFL, it's odd that the Bears have been this bad for this long. But then I'm going in my head, I'm like, wait, didn't the Bears play in a Super Bowl since 2000? And yeah, they did. They had at the helm, they had Rex Grossman, oddly enough, right? Like it's just now Brian Urlacher was like the team, and I think in that Super Bowl, I think that was against the Colts.
Yeah, that was
I think
against the Colts.
Yeah, and maybe
Didn't
Peyton
that
Manning.
wasn't the one Devin Hester returned the opening kickoff, and that was the only score that they scored the whole game? The only touchdown they scored the whole game?
I think so. Yeah. So it's one of those where, okay, would I rather be a Cowboys or a Bears fan since 2000? It's like, well, the Bears at least have been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So like we can get on to those contexts where it's like the Cowboys have 5 rings. Like, what would you rather be doing? Would you rather be a Chargers fan today or a Rams fan today? It's like, well, I can see the Chargers, winning a couple playoff games this year, whereas the Rams, like, who's on that team anymore?
Yeah,
but then again, 2020. So it's all relative. But of the whole like stoplight conversation I sent you about, the Bears are my team where I'm like, hit the brakes, red light, hardcore. It's just not changing to yellow or green in before next year. It's just not.
I mean, Calvin, since I've been a conscious like sports fan, I think they've had one relevant year whenever Jay Cutler was there, and he like they played the Packers in the NFC Championship game, didn't they? Anyway, it's just so weird that they can't put together a competent team or a competent office. Like, we're talking. I remember whenever Justin Fields first got hired, or excuse me, drafted, not hired. He first got drafted. Everybody was kind of like, okay, this is. I remember reading an article. I think it was by Ben Solak at the time, before I really knew a lot about the Ringer. It was one of the first articles I read about like, okay, here's like Justin Fields' strengths and here's his weaknesses. Here are like plays specifically that could help Justin Fields get used to and acclimate. Here's how to build off of it. And it laid out this really awesome plan of, hey, here's what he did at Ohio State. Here's all these things. And then we hard cut to like week whatever, whenever they're trying to win with Andy Dalton as quarterback. And they're just running an offense that completely doesn't fit anything that Justin Fields is good at. And then here we are 3 years later, and it's like they don't care about running anything at all. Because like I remember like 2 or 3 weeks in, he only has a couple of designed runs whenever that's what he's good at. And I think like legitimately, they're just trying to get him killed. They don't care. They just want to go after one like Caleb Williams, Drake May, or any of these other amazing quarterback prospects. But then what hope is there for them if they're not going to have a good solid front office or foundation to work from? It's just going to be a continual quarterback carousel. So really, like the only good quarterback play they've had in 20 years is like that 1 or 2 years of Jay Cutler. That's about it.
Yeah, in 2009, Jay Cutler became the quarterback for the Bears, and then in 2015, 2016, he was no longer with that was his last year as being a Bears quarterback. But that same year in 2016, Matt Barkley started 6 games, and Brian Hoyer started 5 games.
Oh wow!
Jay Cutler started the other 5. So like, I think it was looks like definitely some injuries happened to Jay Cutler. I mean, Jason Campbell started a game in 2012 for the Bears. It's just, there are several bizarre things going on with the Bears organization. If I'm a Bears fan, the thing that really would make me scratch my head more than anything else is like, oh yeah, remember when we traded for Nick Foles and we also drafted Justin Fields? Oh yeah, remember when we traded up to get Mitch Trubisky? But like, I think that's the same draft that Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, et cetera, all in.
Yeah. But the question is, I don't know if Mahomes is Mahomes with the Bears. Because he got to sit a year behind Alex Smith. He's with one of the best offensive minds ever in football. I just don't know that Mahomes is who he is today with the Bears. I mean, is he better than Mitch Trubisky as a prospect? Probably. But anyway,
yeah,
continue.
I totally agree with you. I mean, is Mitch Trubisky, if Mitch Trubisky had been drafted in the exact same situation that, Patrick Mahomes had been drafted into, right? Like gets drafted by the Chiefs. Trubisky started 1 year in college, so gets drafted by the Chiefs, sits a year behind Alex Smith, then has Andy Reid at the helm. You and I may be talking about a totally different situation. We might be saying Mitch Trubisky is the face of Madden and the face of the NFL for the next, and he's throwing passes to his superstar tight end who's dating the biggest icon in the entire world, right? Like, I mean, we really could be, but as much as I would love to like talk about alternative timelines, shout out to Community TV show, but I would rather say this: the Bears to me are not doing anything special. Like the Justin Fields year, that year they drafted him, I like it, good pick, like didn't have any issue with it. And now with Justin Fields, I'm like, okay, so the Bears were supposed to be better this year, but like why?
Yeah,
I mean, just why? Like why? Like they got DJ Moore, okay, cool. They got, I mean, we know as Oklahoma State fans, they at one point have had Tevin Jenkins on, their roster. They tried to at least get some offensive line help. The offensive line position there. I just have so many questions about like their quarterback history, basically going back to 85. It's almost the same thing I have about Oklahoma State. Like, what's the quarterback idea here? Because if you're going in and you're like, you know what, we need a quarterback for our future. All right, well, you know what? You took Justin Fields. He arguably, coming out of college, could have been known as the best quarterback in the draft. Arguably, right? Like,
yeah. There was a real debate. There was like real debate, like for a hot minute, like Fields or Lawrence, and then like Lawrence, once they kind of got into the draft process, I was like, no, Lawrence is way better. That was Wilson was there too. Yeah, Wilson was in there too, and I think a lot of people that I was listening to, and what swayed me was I was definitely more Justin Fields over Zach Wilson, like for sure. But Trevor Lawrence is the best of that group. But there was like a hot minute there. It was like, wait a minute, is Justin Fields a little bit better than Lawrence? But anyway,
it's just bizarre to me because we're talking about Justin Fields, a guy who, correct me if I'm wrong here, but did not win the Heisman.
No,
right? Like, but you know what we're going to say about Trevor Lawrence? Also didn't win the Heisman, and both of them are amazing prospects coming out of college. Fields' measurements coming out is pro quarterback size, height, all that type of stuff. He's 6'2", he weighs 225. I mean, he's almost got the exact same, height and weight that Donald Trump does. So that's kind of bizarre. But with all that being said here, he's like supposedly an amazing quarterback. Yeah, I mean, he played in 12 games for the Georgia Bulldogs. Didn't start a game, but played in 12 of them. And then he transfers to Ohio State, plays in 14 one season. Next season plays in 8 because it's a COVID year. And we're all kind of going, well, that seems odd because he's going to be a second stringer behind Andy Dalton. All right. Well, that seems odd. But, I mean, there's just so many things here. Oh, that seems odd. Okay. Well, it could have been better. It could have been worse, whatever. But, like, is Justin Fields ever been set up for success? Maybe that's the key question we could say. Is there a worse situation to get drafted into than the team that knows they need to be bad consistently just to get more talent on the roster? Like Justin Fields, we're going to throw you into the fire, but not really start you. Like, you need more starts, but we also don't want to start you for starting Andy Dalton, and we don't really even know what we're doing. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, hey, we really need you to be better. Well, last year, in week 9 against the Dolphins, he set the NFL single game regular season record for quarterback rushing yards. So, let's play into that. Let's play a more like, basically let's play a more like I've got some dogs messing around here, but let's play a more like Jalen Hurts. But
Yeah, it just
it's not working that way too.
I mean, there's totally this blueprint now of how to make a running quarterback work in the NFL. Just like, how are you a franchise like existing in the NFL right now where you don't look at, okay, we just drafted a quarterback who's not the strongest passer. Like, there's talent there, there's this basis there, but what's he really good at right now? He's good at running. Okay, well, let's just open up 2019 Baltimore Ravens film. Let's watch what did the Eagles do with Jalen Hurts when they almost won a Super Bowl. Let's look at all these other things that like worked for this guy, and let's build a system that works for this guy. And then like that's what like some of the best coaches do is they're able to, how do I get my guys in the best position? It just seems like the Bears keep hiring coaching staffs that they have a type of player in mind that they want, and they just continue to build. They want them to fit into their system. For example, Chip Kelly, like he kind of goes out and he finds people that fit in his system. You can kind of think through anything, and then like kind of look at what the guy that got hired on for the Colts, and he's just basically throwing everything out the window. Is like, hey, what's going to work for Anthony Richardson, and we're going to do all of these things to make it work.
And from that point, he was the guy with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, exactly.
So he goes to Indy and then drafts the next Jalen Hurts kind of guy, like as much as you can get, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's like basically Jalen Hurts, but bigger, stronger, faster, for sure. Like he is like, according to so many, like whatever metric you want to look at, he's like the most athletic quarterback ever tested.
Yeah,
in the NFL. Like, it's insane, and so it's like, let's just go get Jalen Hurts, but he's probably even better.
Which is just, man. Well, all right. Well, you know what? The Bears, they're not going to figure it out. But who's your red light team? Is it the Bears?
Oh, probably. I mean, let's see here. Red light team that I am. So we're talking about like team I'm the most down on. That I'm pumping the brakes.
Like they got to hit
like the bandwagon's driving by and you're slamming on the brakes. You're turning the other direction. Like you're not even following the bandwagon.
It's 3 games into the season, and you already know they're looking towards next year. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think the hard red light is probably the Bears because they just have no direction other than we want to tank and we want to start over. I think that's where I'm at.
All right. Well, my yellow light team of the week last week was the Dallas Cowboys. I think rightfully so, I'll say, because they just got beat by the Arizona Cardinals in a very bizarre game. There are a lot of penalties in the game. Cowboys got down early, really couldn't come back. And then Dak has some, bad turnover. What else is new? But if you don't mind me asking you here, I just want to start off with who's your yellow light team of the week?
I'm gonna go with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
I wanted to, like you're cresting over the hill and you see the yellow light, and you're like, I can make that. And I think that for me, a little bit, I pressed the hill and was like, I'm gonna hit the brakes. I'm not even gonna attempt it. But then last week they kind of put together some nice things. Kenny Pickett kind of looked like he stopped trying to be the hero. They kind of let that, like, hey, we're gonna let the defense kind of win this game for us. We're gonna stop handing the ball off to Najee Harris. We're gonna get Jalen Warren more involved. And it looked like they were doing a little bit better. So I'm kind of cresting the hill and I'm coming down and I see yellow light and I almost hit that brake. And then I'm like, no, we're going to go full bore. We're going to slam on the accelerator. We're going to make this light. I'm going to get to crumble before it closes at 10 PM.
I love that. Mine is the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
Because to me, they get a couple guys back from injury here soon. Like we could be hitting the green light. We could be saying easily division winners. They're in a division that's tough. I mean, we'll see how they face against the Detroit Lions tomorrow night, depending on when you're listening to this on Thursday Night Football. But like the Packers, that's a team that we could have been going, okay, they're 1-2. Maybe they're in the red light category. But then they have that comeback in the fourth quarter last weekend. And I know the Saints, when Derek Carr went out with an injury, they weren't the same. They scored 17 early, and that's all they ever scored. But with all that being said here, the Packers, I have questions about them. And their biggest issue is basically Jordan Love. Like his completion percentage is just not very pretty. But at the end of the day, like it's I mean it's tough for me. Like, oh, okay, they're completely out of it just because they don't have Aaron Jones, and
Or
is
Christian Watson.
or Christian Watson.
I think they're also missed a couple offensive linemen.
Yeah. Well, David Bakhtiari has basically come out and said, now that I've seen my buddy Aaron Rodgers, who we all know is not on the package anymore, but
Yeah.
now we've seen now Dave Bakhtiari said, well, now basically since Aaron Rodgers gets injured on turf, I'm never playing on turf. I'm only playing on grass. Well, guess what? They're playing in Green Bay this weekend, so I think he's playing. Or excuse me, this weekend, this Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he'll be playing. What's troubling here is that Love currently ranks 33 out of 34 qualifying quarterbacks in completion percentage, ahead of only Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
And when I'm saying that line, it's tough. It's tough for me to be like, oh, you know what? You deserve, you deserve to basically be better than a yellow light. And I think the rest of that Green Bay roster could prove to all of us that Aaron Rodgers was a little bit of a crybaby and just didn't want to live in Green Bay anymore because that team, I think, is built up around the quarterback so well. All they needed was an Aaron Rodgers. Now it's probably going to say, oh, man, Packers might be 3-0, except for they don't have the best quarterback in the entire world or a previous MVP at the helm. So,
yeah. So with the Packers, for me, I'm not as worried about it. I watched that fourth quarter game, and I really thought Jordan Love looked poised, and I thought because they were down 8, they were down. They were down. It was like 16-0, and they went for the 2-point conversion. They got it back into it, and they did end up winning. I really thought he probably had like a shakier game, but that last few drives where the team really needed him to pull through, I thought he played really, really well and really, really poised. So I'm not as worried about Jordan Love because this is his first year starting. This is his third year in the league, third maybe fourth. And I feel like he's kind of making the most of it. And he's kind of going through some growing pains, missing his top wide receiver, missing their best running back. But the coach, I think, is solid. And I think there's a lot of, I would much rather have Jordan Love than Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, probably even Russell Wilson. I would much rather have Jordan Love right now than a lot of other guys. I think he's at least a middle of the road quarterback for now, for sure.
I don't think he's horrible, but I think he's what's currently holding them back the most.
Would you rather have Jordan Love or Mac Jones?
Oh,
I think Jordan Love.
That's actually, I mean, yeah, I think Jordan Love right now. I wanted to ask you about Mac Jones.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and do it right now.
Yeah.
You've got to pick one of these 5 quarterbacks for the rest of this year, right? This scenario. It's Jordan Love.
Okay.
Justin Fields.
Okay.
Jared Goff. Mac Jones or Kenny Pickett. And I know the Jared Goff one's a little bit, but yeah.
I think I'd go Goff, Love, Mac Jones, Fields, and then Pickett, then Fields. I think that would be mine. Goff has proven he's gotten a team to the Super Bowl. Then that team kind of figured out his warts and his flaws and said we don't want to work around it anymore. We want to go get a bona fide guy who can just make it work. And Matthew Stafford. I think that Goff has probably the best offensive coordinator. He's probably got the most talent around him to succeed. He doesn't have to be a hero. He just has to distribute. And I think he's really pretty good at it. So there's that. I think Jones has the best head coach. A also solid offensive coordinator. That team is just solid, it seems like to me. And he's got some good supporting cast. And then Mac Jones probably, I don't know that Mac Jones helps you win, but I don't know that he hurts you. Does that make a lot of sense?
Yeah, I don't think Mac Jones is horrible. I think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL, but I don't put him in a top 15 category ever.
Yeah, I mean, he also doesn't have a great supporting cast. There's not that receiving core doesn't have a bona fide number one. The running back is fine. The offensive line's fine. The offensive coordinator is also like fine. He's a proven offensive coordinator, but he's not like, I mean, he's not innovative. He just kind of gets the job done. And, that's kind of what all New England needs is to get the job done and let the defense win. Kenny Pickett probably has the worst offensive coordinator, but he does have some skill positions around him. And Justin Fields just has the worst situation. He's also the worst quarterback, period, right now. That's especially if they're not going to use his legs, if they're not going to use his one defining skill, then there's just no chance.
Yeah. So one thing that I always do is I look through like ESPN's power rankings, before when we record. Just I'm always like, oh, I wonder like how this is going. What is the consensus here, etc. Well, at number 32 in the NFL is the Bears. 31 is the Broncos, which I'll get to in just a second. 30 Panthers, 29 Titans, and then 28 Texans. Before we get a little bit farther up here, which I'm just not going to keep reading off the list here. 26 is the Vikings 0-3, which just baffles me. But still, end of the day, it's quite odd. I want to ask you this though. The Denver Broncos and the Chicago Bears are completely different points here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like one has a super young quarterback, but it's going to be, I think this is Fields' third year in the league, if I was reading all that correctly. The other one has Russell Wilson, who I think we could see being benched here before too long, just because they may want to just see what Jarrett Stidham's got.
Yeah.
And I don't think Sean Payton's going to be at the helm of a team that just sucks. Like I don't think Sean Payton's going to be like, oh, I'm going to be, basically be the coach of a team that's just is no matter what, just going down the tank. So I'll ask you this one here too. Which would you rather coach, for the next, like, however many years here? Bears, Broncos, Panthers, or Titans? I think those are the four.
Which would I rather coach?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think I'd go Panthers because Bryce Young he's got a rough couple of weeks. He didn't get to play last week with an ankle injury. Andy Dalton started instead. I think he might miss this week as well. He's in a rough situation, but I think that's probably the best quarterback situation because if you just look at him at Alabama, and the talent level is he'll probably never have the same talent level as he did in Alabama, but he just had so much poise and he could make all these different throws, and he was making highlight reels, winning the Heisman, which again, Heisman winning is not like super translatable to the NFL. But it's an indication of how good were you in comparison to your peers. And clearly he was one of the best college football players that year. But I still think that there's something there, and with size concerns aside, there's enough there that you could build around him. And the season's not gone the way that a lot of people thought it would. But they also don't have like a great supporting cast and gotten rid of like the only real weapon that he had. That's probably where I go. The Broncos, it's so weird that they had such a good defense last year. I guess they got old and lost a couple major players off that defense, and obviously the coach. But it's kind of weird that they were that bad to give up 70 points on Sunday. But I don't really foresee them continuing to be this bad. I think Sean Payton should have too high of a floor to let that continue, but maybe they're also supposed to get their pick this year. So maybe this is the signal that like, screw it. Let's see what Stidham has. Let him get some film out there, see what kind of happens. And maybe we can get into like this top 4 or 5 pick and get a quarterback next year. Maybe that's their idea. I'm not real sure, but I think roster wise, I'd go best quarterback. And I think that the Panthers have something there that they may or may not be tapping into effectively.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that's all. I think that's well put. Let's move on here to the green light, though, as we finish out the spotlight before we get to kind of my favorite segment we've got coming up here on the player comp versus the pickup hoops before we end out this episode. So green light, who's your team off the top of your head?
Man, it's probably too much hype coming off the 70-point game, but the Dolphins are like, I just basically think they have the ugliest colors in the NFL. So I told my wife I wanted a Dolphins hat, and she gave me a hat, and then they got good all of a sudden. So I've kind of been loosely following the Dolphins for a few years, and they got good. They have a really, really fun offense, one of the best offenses to watch in football. Mike McDaniels is hilarious. He's a man of the millennial for sure. He's awesome. The it's really cool seeing Tua succeed the way he is, seeing Tyreek Hill succeed the way he is, doing all these really innovative things on offense, using the motion to basically put the defense on their heels constantly. And yeah, they're not going to put up 70 every week. They still have to figure out the defense and how well will this offense translate in the colder months. How well will it translate in the playoffs remains to be seen. Can Tua stay healthy? But right now, it's just a lot of fun to kind of be rooting for the Dolphins and this thing that like we haven't really seen in the NFL before. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, mine last week was the Niners, and I try to choose a new team every single week. Right now, it's hard not to pick the Dolphins, though. I mean, 70. The one thing I'd say though is that before playing the Broncos, they did give up 17 points to the Patriots, whose offense has not looked great, and they gave up 20 to the Broncos, which I know it's more points, but when you score 70, I don't almost care how many points you let up. Like your defense is basically just in and out of it the whole time. The Ringer did a podcast here recently where the Ringer NFL show where every 6 minutes they played a dolphin noise on the podcast because that's on average how often the Dolphins scored was every 6 minutes.
Gosh.
So there are a couple times where like they're doing it, and it's one of those where like if I was that good at like editing and on the fly doing it, would we do something like that maybe in the future here?
Yeah, well, maybe we should be like that one family on Twitter that was announcing that they do a shot every time the Dolphins score, and everybody's like, "Are they alive? Did they make it through that game?"
But it was just jarring because it caught the podcast hosts off guard, right? Like all of a sudden, like they're just going and just like, "Oh, that one got me. I just didn't, that was so quick on the turn on that one." But the Dolphins, I mean, they gave up like 34 points to the Chargers. You're right. That defense definitely is something that's a little interesting. Their point differential for the Dolphins isn't great. Then again, you know what? They've got an actual test this weekend at the Bills. So
yeah, that's gonna be a big game.
Well, we'll see. And after this Bills game, like when they play the Giants and the Panthers at home, then they go at the Eagles, which I'm already circling October 22nd on the calendar is one of those like, all right, you know what? I think that's Sunday night football too.
Yeah,
that'll be a great one. Barring, everyone stays healthy, etc. So green light team here for the rest of the Dolphins. All right. So we're going to end this one out here. I'm just going to let you kind of go ahead and debut the segment here, explain however you want to, but I think it's beautiful.
Okay. So we were going to, basically the idea was we're going to just describe NFL player performances via pickup hoop stereotypes. So I think everybody is going to get this one based off of I think it was the 90s sitcom or the 90s rom-com, Along Came Polly with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Ben Stiller, where Philip Seymour Hoffman and him are playing Anyway, they're playing basketball and he's just chucking threes and like hitting the backboard stuff. So I have my first thing is the chucker, which I believe actually is a Seinfeld reference. But anyway, the chucker is I had Mac Jones throwing 42 times, only getting 230 yards. And I went and looked at Tom Brady, and he was consistently throwing for 40 plus attempts last year, his final season with the Bucs, and averaging like 300 yards per game. There's some 400 yards in there, then no touchdowns. And my thing was the chucker. He's just heaving it, just slinging it, and really not having any effect at all.
All right. I love that one. Mm-hmm. Mine is the Mr. Wrong Sport guy. So it's the guy who, is playing basketball because someone asked him to, but he really plays football. Like his sport actually is, he's good at football. He's good running over people. But, when it comes to basketball, he's like, you're kind of just telling him like, hey man, play defense and pass. Yeah. And that guy, I think it's probably too easy to say already, but it's Justin Fields. Like Justin Fields should be playing running back or maybe basketball or something else, but it's Justin Fields here for that one.
Okay, so we'll say we do 2 more each. We call it there.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think here's my next one. The surprise. You're like playing, and then you put pause for a second. And you're like, hey, what's the score, guys? What's the score? And everybody's like going through it, and one guy holds up his hand. Oh, I've scored 2. And another guy holds up his hand. I've scored 1. And then one guy holds up his hands like, oh, I've scored like 11. And you're like, wait a minute, what? And you start like thinking through it. Like, he hit a 3 and he hit this and he hit a post up. And I think that's CJ Stroud. is like you kind of like take a double take at his stats, and he's being amazing. I screenshot this thing from Rich Rybar at Lord Reeves. CJ Stroud has been put in some undecidable conditions through some solid peripherals through 2 weeks. He has the lowest early down pass attempts in the NFL, but yet he has the most passing attempts on third down, needing 7+ yards. So he's had to throw a lot on third down, more than 7 yards, and he's 14 of 17, averaging 10 yards per attempt, and basically has been scoring a touchdown on 41% of the rate. So he's being asked to throw in a situation which the defense really need, or the defense is expecting pass, and CJ Stroud is killing it. So, and this was even before this was a stat from just the first 2 weeks. I'm sure that stat's even better after 3 weeks. So he has been the best rookie quarterback by far.
Okay.
And he thought going into it was the worst situation.
All right. I gotta say, I love that one for sure. Because you would not think that at all. My next one here is the old guy.
Yes.
At the gym. So he's not always playing. Every once in a while when you really need him in, he's good. He knows the fundamentals. But like if you use him too much, you just know he's not gonna be able to have it.
Yeah.
And that one here is Gardner Minshew. So he comes in for the Colts, last weekend. He's kind of got the, Napoleon Dynamite, what is it, Uncle Rico, I think, right, type of deal where it's like, man, let's see what he's got here. But, he's on the roster. He can do something a little bit here or there. And so you go ahead and go, all right, Uncle Rico, all right, Gardner Minshew, can you get in? Can you just get us some points here? Can you just survive? We just need to survive this game.
Yeah.
Our starters are out. Our guy didn't show up this week, etc. And Gardner Minshew here is the old guy at the gym. He's got some fundamentals.
I like that a lot. I have an old man.
Okay.
I have an old man category. I said Tyler Lockett last week, or on week 2, he had 8 catches, 59 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And you're just like, this guy's been in the league since I was in high school. He's just, and then they talk about he like really knows how to take care of his body. He like basically makes a catch and just immediately falls down so he doesn't get hurt. But he's just reliably always good. And like my mother-in-law was asking, like, hey, who should I draft? Who should I kind of be targeting? I was like, Tyler Lockett. He will do really good for fantasy. So that is my old man pick, is he's just always consistently like good.
Okay. I like that a lot. My one here is it's gonna be the guy who shows up at the gym, and you're like, that guy can't shoot. That's the guy I don't want on the team.
Yeah.
You're like, that's the guy that every single second everyone's playing, they're just like, we'll let that guy pull up from 3, every time. Look at his shot. He's basically the last one picked or second to last, because you just know he's a little bit better shape than other guys, but you're like, I don't think that guy's ever played basketball in his life. I mean,
Yeah.
did his dad come to the gym and bring him with him? And he went, I don't want to run on the treadmill today. I'll come play hoops. And you're just like, but he hits a 3 right in your eye, dude. Has a game winner. He's just the most unexpected guy, unathletic dude, where you're like, oh, I've sagged off him the whole game. He maybe shot the ball twice, and each time it's been close, but you've been like, he's never going to make it, though. His form is just absolutely whack. He's not chucking it, but it's just he never shoots the ball because his teammates don't even trust him. And that guy for me here is Josh Dobbs, because how in the heck did the Cardinals beat the Dallas Cowboys? How was Josh Dobbs starting in an NFL game when he was basically going to get cut? Before he got traded to the Cardinals.
And he wasn't even that good for Tennessee.
And he was not that good for Tennessee at all. He could barely do anything. But now all of a sudden he can go out there and say, yep, so far this season, I've done this and this, and, I'm the, number 1 quarterback in the NFL, just beat the Dallas Cowboys and put up 28 points on them and their defense. That was historic through the first 2 games. I know they lost Trayvon Diggs, but still, it's just like, all right. I've got one more in me.
Let's hear
I don't know
it.
about you. You've got one more here?
I have the black hole, basically.
Okay.
Like you throw the guy the pass, and you know that you're never getting it back. The guy's either chucking a 3 or he's driving to the lane and has no business doing either. And I think it's Najee Harris. Like they hand it off, and it's just kind of like you might as well be throwing the ball in the opposite direction. Nothing's happening there. But that's kind of that's all I've got up there. The black hole. The
Okay.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, Oppenheimer. I like it.
There
I
you
like
go.
it.
There you go.
I like it. So mine here is the hustle man. So he's not even that really good, but he just plays his heart out every single game,
Yeah.
win or lose. He's going for it all every single time. He usually puts up pretty darn good stats because of it, gets his teammates involved. But it seems like even though he's out hustling every single person every single time, and he has good weapons on his team, like they all should win, but he just isn't able to pull it off. And so far, that's been Kirk Cousins to me. You know, either they're 0-3, like they should have won a game or two, but at the end of the day, like they haven't been able to pull it off because basically just hasn't all come together just yet. It seems odd, but man, you would think, okay, you know what? They could do it, but at the end of the day, they just really couldn't pull it off that well yet. So
I love seeing the
yeah.
updated stats of like if this trends for the whole year, he's throwing for like 70 touchdowns and 6,000 yards and no picks. It's like, well, that's obviously not going to continue, but it has continued so far. But yeah, didn't they maybe lose Jefferson? I remember seeing him go down, but I haven't heard any updates on him.
I think he's okay. I think it was just cramps, but because I was watching that game pretty closely there, of course, it's the Chargers, but
yeah, as a Chargers fan.
Yeah, you know. And then last one here, I'm just gonna say is the pro player, comes to your gym, record every Saturday or during the offseason, casually just puts up 40 points a night. It's just like, oh my God, like this guy showed out today. Like, all right, we got to basically put like 4 14-year-olds on his team or something. Like, how are we even gonna, is the guy who we're playing against this past weekend here is in the
I was about to
Blacksburg,
say, like, this is sounding like way
crazy
too familiar.
shots, whatever. But to me, that's Justin Herbert. Like, he's so incredibly good, but like everyone on his team just can't stay healthy or can't stay focused or can't stay just whatever. That was my last one there.
I'm totally with that. Yeah. The hero.
Yeah, the hero, the guy who, everyone needs, but like Joey Bosa decides he needs to have 5,000 penalties that game, or, Mike Williams gets injured 3 games into the season, just whatever it is, just can't ever have anything that nice, Well, Cole, with that being said here, thank you so much for joining on the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. Please follow the CGA Tour on Twitter and Instagram for more. And Colton, good luck in the skies this weekend.
Yes. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll let you take over the Twitter account and go wild here with the CGA Tour podcast before too long. So get your eyes on an NFL Sunday here. But thanks so much, and please follow the CGA Tour on Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll catch you guys again soon.